Hey guys, got a question here. Looking for some feedback for all the professional cabinet makers and furniture makers out there that make their own raised panel and flat panel doors. I've been making my doors for ever since I pretty much started building cabinets here in the shop, and I've used a few different things in the past as far as a spacer inside the groove here. Here is actual just a style. For a spacer to use in the groove here to constantly keep this panel centered. I worked for an employer at one time many years ago where we actually didn't use anything. We just made the panel an 1/8 inch smaller than the rails, and then also an 1/8 inch smaller in height as well. And we made the tongue fairly snug so that it would always kind of stay centered. The problem with that is that when this panel expands and contracts in different changes in humidity and weather. For example, in the summertime, if it's really humid, this panel is going to expand quite a bit just because it is a solid piece of wood. And in the wintertime, it's actually going to contract. And when it contracts, if you're not careful, depending on how snug you have made the tongue and the raised panels, you might not have got any stain underneath here, then you have a bare spot. Depending on as far as when the door was built and stained, especially if you stained it in the summertime when it was really humid. And like I said, if this was a really snug fit and it would have contracted in the wintertime, chances are it didn't get a lot of stain underneath the into the groove here, and there's a raw edge. Now, for last 15 plus years, I've been using some form of a spacer in the groove here to help keep the panel centered. Unfortunately, I don't have them all here, but basically this is what I started with. This is basically called a polystyrene backing rod, and I used to get this in a roll. And here's some of it. I guess you can see it's kind of coiled up here a little bit. But anyways, this stuff I was introduced to when I went to Votech, and this is what we used. And it's pretty squishy. Doesn't really have a memory. It's got a little bit of a memory, which kind of scared me a little bit. So I used this for a while, and then I had learned about a different product at my employer where we actually were using a product similar to this. This is actually a space ball, but the ones that I had used prior to that were a football shape, and they were made by a company called RC Rubber Company, and they were called rubber barrels is what the actual name of them were. And you can get them in different durometers or softness and firmness. And they're really good, but the supplier that I'm buying them from, they'd actually switch to space balls. So then instead of switching suppliers, I just went to space balls. And these space balls, what I kind of liked about these space balls was the fact that they're round. There's really no right or wrong way to the beauty of these is that, like I said, they're round. There's no wrong way of putting them in. You don't have to put them in sideways or any direction. I mean, they're round. And these are actually the softer of the two. I tried a couple different ones, and the thing that's always kind of bothered me a little bit is the recommendation is to basically compress these 50%. So you got to squeeze them half as much. And just by squeezing them right now, I mean, that's a lot of pressure on there. The other thing I've noticed too is I've actually had a couple doors in the field where I sized it according to the manufacturer, and the joints actually started to open up a couple of them. Now, when I glue these doors together, this whole surface on the front and back is just covered in glue, so there's plenty of glue throughout the entire joint. And as you can see here, here's the end grain view, there's a lot of glue surface. And what I've been finding out is talking to a couple other people who've had the same issue is that, these are really nice as far as centering the panel, but depending on the climate change as far as the panel goes, you can really start putting a lot of pressure on these joints. And someone was telling me about these guys called panel Budies. And these are a foam rubber or rubber foam, and it's 0.265 square by 0.750, so it's 15 thousandths over a quarter, and it's 3/4 of an inch long. And these here just basically just push right in like that there. And they don't have a memory, and yet they're soft enough, but they're not too firm. Just like I said, looking for some feedback out there as far as has anybody using the panel buddies? Do they like them, or have they found something that's better? Because going from this foam here was a definite improvement. And then these, like I said, are nice because there's no right or wrong way to put them in. And interestingly enough, the manufacturer of the panel buddies, on their website, they were basically putting down Spaceballs, and they had said something like, switch to panel buddies and quit picking up your balls. Well, in today's society, that's not the best thing to say, but they're basically putting down the Spaceballs, because the problem with the Spaceballs is because, well, they just roll around all over the place. I actually have put mine in a plastic container, and not this really matters, but before I have them all over the place. So yeah, I put them in a plastic container. I put the sticker on the top so I know what the part number is when I need to reorder them. But I called the manufacturer of the panel buddies, and they said they're going to send me out a sample. And they sent me out a sample, right? Enough for one door. When I got the sample of Spaceballs from the manufacturer called Spaceballs, I got like 100 of them. I could build several doors. But anyways, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just probably order 1,000 of these, give them a shot, run it in a particular order. I've got to make some cabinets here for church coming up here, so I'll probably use them in there and kind of keep an eye on them, see if it's something I want to continue to use or not. But the one thing I will say, now these are medium firm, and they are squishy, but they do not have a memory at all. They sponge back right to their original shape. Unlike this polystyrene, it kind of has a little bit of a memory. So, but anyways, just looking for some feedback out there, what people are using, if people are using the panel buddies, how they like them. As far as cost wise, my current supplier right now, and buying directly from panel buddies, it's the same cost. If I buy 1,000 at a time, it's $20. If I buy more than that, then it gets cheaper, but 1,000 will last me a while. So like I said, just looking for some feedback out there of anybody who has used the panel buddies or is using them, or if they're using something identical or whichever. Like I said, I'm just looking for some ideas as far as how well they're used. And the other reason I'm kind of looking at panel buddies or something else is I'm a member of WoodWeb, and I was actually reading an article, I think it was on WoodWeb. Anyways, there was talking about some spots on the raw door prior to finishing, wherever they had a space ball or the rubber barrel, they were seeing some spots that were actually looked like they were wet. And what it actually was the oil from the rubber was actually weeping out into the wood. And depending on the finish you use, it might cause a lot of problems. So in the past, I've had a couple different issues with some finishing issues. So I'm just basically, seeing if these are better. It's the same cost, so I'm not saving anything and I'm not losing anything. But at the same time, also, I got a feeling that these are a lot easier on the joint. So, and the fact, like I said, they don't have a memory. So, I mean, they go right back to their original shape. So, they're made by a company in Missouri called Midwest. Let's see here. Midwest Manufacturing and Supply. So they're made right here in the U.S. These are also made by a company actually called Spaceballs. That's the actual name. They're made in the U.S. as well. I want to say it's like Arizona or something like that. And this here actually, I can't even find this anymore. I don't even remember where I got it from, because I had probably a couple 100 feet when I first started. And I thought maybe I might find it in McMaster Car, or find something like this with a little bit better in McMaster Car, and I couldn't even find it there. So, but anyways, so yeah, if anybody's got any good feedback regarding the use of panel buddies, or if they found something that they like a little bit better, I guess I'm kind of open to some ideas and suggestions, just kind of get a feel out there from what other people are using. So, all right, thanks for watching.